Hello everyone, as you can probably tell I am in a slightly different position today. I'm a bit lower down on my bookcase because I broke my tripod. So I'm going to hopefully get that fixed soon, but who knows. We might be here for a while. I'm okay with that, you can still see some of my books, that's fine. And I will still be filming as always. I'm not going to let a tripod get in the way of that. So today I will be doing my summer book recommendations. I don't tend to read books to do with the seasons as such. Sometimes I do, sometimes books do link with the season we're in, but I don't tend to deliberately do it. But I do have lots of books that I think are great for the summer, so I want to recommend them to you today. Also, we have sun, we have heat, and I'm not sure Britain can actually cope with it because we're not used to it. We complained about not having the sun, and then we got the sun, and now we're complaining about being too hot. Although I'm kind of liking it. It's fine when you're just sitting in it, but when, like, I'm a dance teacher and stuff, so when I'm training in it and teaching in it, and yeah, it's not great. Anyway, enough of the rambling, let's get on with the video. So my first author I'm going to recommend to you today is Giovanna Fletcher, and the books I'm going to recommend are pretty much all of her books actually, and they are Billy and Me. And this is about a girl called Sophie who works in a coffee shop, and one day a guy comes into the coffee shop called Billy Buskin. Turns out Billy is famous and she is kind of just thrown into his world, and she has no idea how to deal with this and how to balance it with her own life. But it is so cute, such a sweet story, and I definitely recommend it. And Giovanna has also gotten out a sequel to Billy and Me this year, and that is Always with Love. I haven't read this one yet, but I plan on reading it really soon. Another book I recommend by her is You're the One That I Want, and this is about a group of 3 friends who went to school together, and during school and growing up they kind of start getting feelings for each other. There's one girl and 2 boys, so you kind of got this love triangle thing going on. It's really cute though, I promise, it's not one of these really cheesy things. And basically there's a guy called Rob and he likes Maddie, and there's a guy called Ben, and Ben also likes Maddie. Rob kind of lets her know and everything, but Ben doesn't, and she ends up at the aisle, walking down the aisle towards Rob, and Ben is her best man, but she's not sure she's marrying the right person. It's fantastic, I promise, it will not let you down, it is beautifully written. And the final book for Giovanna is Dream a Little Dream, and this is about a girl who starts to have dreams about a guy she knew a while ago. Now, these aren't normal dreams, they're not just always randomly appeared and, you know, your normal kind of average dreams. They are together and they get a bit sexy, these dreams. They're not normal at all, but she's a bit confused why she's having them, but she's kind of not complaining about it either. And this guy's not in her life anymore, never going to see him, although she thinks. One day he turns up to her work and she's like, what on earth is he doing here? Turns out he's got a job at her work. So yeah, it's how she deals with this and kind of how they get along, I suppose. It's really good again though, and this one's really funny as well. So yeah, if you're in for a bit of a laugh, then definitely recommend this one. The next author I'm going to recommend to you is Jenny Han. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of Jenny Han. Now, the books I am going to recommend I've recently finished, and I really enjoyed them, and they're just really cute contemporary books. So, the first one is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Now, this is about a girl called Laura Jean, and she writes letters to all the boys she's ever loved. But they're only for her, they're not meant for anybody else to see, but one day all the letters get sent out, and she has to deal with the consequences. Really cute contemporary, flew through it, nice fast read if you're busy during the summer and you just want to have a quick read. It is really good for that and just thoroughly enjoyable. And the second book is the sequel to that, and that is P.S. I Still Love You, and I don't want to say anything about this one as it is the sequel, but again, really cute, and you just fly through them. They're really written, really fast paced, and yeah, really cute contemporary and great for the summer. Another author I want to recommend to you is a very well known one, and that is Rainbow Rowell. She is perfect for the summer. You cannot get a better author than Rainbow Rowell in the summer, I don't think. So the first book I'm going to recommend is my favourite out of all of hers, and a lot of other people's favourites as well, and that is Eleanor and Park. This is about 2 students who meet on the bus on the way to school. They're 16 years old and they are from the 1980s. and it has all that kind of 80s quirkiness to it. They are both complete misfits, but they end up starting this relationship and finding out more about each other, and they have quite a lot in common in the sense of what books they like, what music they like, films, TV, that kind of thing. But they also find out that neither of them have a very nice home life, so it's not all happy. It does have some quite heart-wrenching moments in it, but it is still really, really good, and I still really badly want a sequel to this because I could not deal with the ending. The second book is, of course, Fangirl, and this is about twins who go to college called Kath and Ren, and Kath loves to write fan fiction. She's not very sociable. She just kind of likes sitting in a room doing her own thing, reading, writing fan fiction about Simon Snow. And Ren is complete opposite. She's a bit of a party goer, very outgoing, very sociable. So it's kind of how these two deal with uni or college, and how they kind of go their separate ways, but they still need each other. Very, very cute. Really, really good again for the summer. Of course, it's some recommendations. But yeah, definitely recommend this. And the next one isn't a contemporary, it is a fantasy, but of course it is still Rainbow Rowell and it is Carry On, and this is the fanfiction that Kath writes in Fangirl about Simon Snow. Brilliant fantasy book, absolutely adored it, read it at the beginning of the year, and it is still one of my favourite books of this year. I just love it. And I also gained a new favourite character from this, and that is Baz, if you're interested. Love Baz. Rainbow Rowell has also written adult contemporaries as well as YA, and the next two are her adult books, and first one is Attachments. Now Attachments is about two girls who are at work, and they know that it is company policy that their emails will be monitored, so they are emailing about work-related things and not just random life situations. But they don't really care about this, and they're emailing each other with all these gossiping and life situations anyway. The guy who monitors these emails finds the emails, and he knows he should hand them in, but he doesn't because he starts to become a bit attached to these two girls, especially one of them, and he actually starts to fall in love with her. But it's a bit late to tell her that he's been monitoring their emails and that's how he knows about them, because it sounds a bit like he's stalking them. Really funny, it's written through email form as well as your standard text, and it is just absolutely brilliant. And I do think this book's a little bit underrated as well. I think both of Rainbow Rowell's adult fiction are underrated because Fangirl and Eleanor and Park always get a lot of mention. And this one doesn't, and neither does the next one I'm going to be talking about either. But yeah, really recommend. If you've not read it, I highly recommend it to you. And the final of Rainbow Rowell's books is Landline, and this is about a girl who is a wife and a mum, and her family decide that they're going to be visiting her husband's family over Christmas. But her work gets in the way as she is a TV writer, and she has to tell them that she won't be able to make it. But her husband and the kids still go along, so she's left on her own. While she's on her own, she goes back to her old family home, and in her old bedroom she finds a landline. And she thinks, oh well, let's have a look. I could probably contact my husband through this landline. And she manages to. Although it's not her husband from now, it's actually her husband from the past. I don't mean ex-husband, I mean the same husband, but from years ago. Really confusing. I'm not describing that very well. But it's really good, I promise. Absolutely fantastic read. And another one that is a bit underrated of her books, I think, and I definitely think it should get more recognition. The next author I'm going to recommend isn't a YA author. He is an adult contemporary writer, and that is Nicholas Sparks. Now, I haven't actually read as much Nicholas Sparks, if any at all, this year, but last year I was absolutely obsessed and I read so many of his books. I am not going to recommend them all because we will be here all day, as I have read tons of them, but I am going to recommend my top 3 to you now. So my favourite out of all of his books is Safe Haven. Now Safe Haven is about a girl called Erin, and Erin is in a violent relationship. She runs away, tries to get out of this relationship, and while she runs away she also changes her name to Katie, so it's harder for him to find her if he tries to find her. She ends up in a small town in North Carolina, and there she meets a guy called Alex, and he has 2 little children. Katie starts to become a bit attached to this family and starts hanging out with them, and everything seems to be going really, really well. But her violent boyfriend is out to find her, and so her past kind of comes back to haunt her and all these secrets come flooding out. She also tries to get the support from her neighbour Jo, and then all of her secrets end up coming out, and it's just a bit of a tearjerker, a bit of an emotional roller coaster, but it is so nice, and if you like a good romance story, I definitely recommend this one. The next one is A Message in a Bottle. Now this one is about a girl called Teresa who, while on a seaside holiday, she finds a bottle swept up on the beach, and inside this bottle is a letter. Quite self-explanatory in the title. But in the letter she notices a guy has wrote it, and he is expressing his undying love basically for this girl who he has lost. Now she finds it really intriguing and she gets a bit attached to this, and she really wants to try and find who this guy is. Now all she knows is he's called Garrett, and she goes out to try and find him. That's all I'm going to say. Really great book, really well written, and I definitely recommend it for the summer, as it is obviously beach themed and it's all romance, and romance is perfect for the summer. It is just really nice. And the third book I'm going to recommend of Nicholas Sparks is A Bend in the Road. Now this one is not as light-hearted, but it is still really, really good, and I definitely recommend it. Now this one is about a guy called Miles, and he loses his wife in a hit and run. 2 years later, he really still wants to find this person who hit his wife and killed her, and basically bring them to justice. As well as this, he has a little boy called Jonah. Now Jonah's school teacher Sarah then ends up meeting Miles, his dad, and they start getting along really well, and they start hanging out, and they try to kind of help each other, support each other, because neither of them have been through great situations. But there's also a link in their two stories as well. So it's kind of how they deal with this link and how that completely affects their friendship that they've built up. Really recommend it. Absolutely brilliant. I recommend all of Nicholas Sparks' books, to be honest, for the summer. They're really good for the summer. So if none of these kind of seem like your kind of book, do have a look at all of his other work as well, because he's done so much. I really do recommend his reading for the summer. And the final author is one of the most well-known YA authors, and of course it is John Green. Now John Green is brilliant for all year round, to be honest. I could read John Green any time of the year, but really in the summer. And I read Paper Towns last year in the summer on the way to LA, and I absolutely loved it. So that is one of the ones I will be recommending today. But the first one I'm going to recommend is The Fault in Our Stars. Now I don't have a copy of this as I use my sister's, but I plan on getting a copy soon because I just keep forgetting as I have read it, so I don't think about picking it up, but I do definitely need to pick it up soon. Now this book is about Hazel, and Hazel has terminal cancer, and she goes to a support group, and at the support group she meets a guy called Augustus Waters who is in the same kind of boat as her. They are both not very well and they aren't going to get any better, but they kind of become friends and they start supporting each other through all of this, and they end up really getting close. So yeah, they kind of become support systems for each other. I don't really want to say much more, but it is a really heartwarming book, and the way John Green writes is hilarious. He brings really serious topics to a story, but then brings in humour at the same time, and it works. I don't know how it works, but it works, and it is really good. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of all of his books anyway, but I definitely recommend that one. The second book I'm going to recommend is Paper Towns, which I just mentioned before. Now, this is about a guy called Quentin, and Quentin is madly in love with Margot, who lives across the road from him, and they go to school together, and they are just completely different characters. They couldn't be any more different. Margot really is just a bit adventurous, a bit crazy, and Quentin isn't really like that. He's sociable, but he's just not as outgoing and crazy as Margot. Margot doesn't really acknowledge him much or anything like that, whereas when they were kids they were good friends, but they kind of fizzled out as they got older. But then one day Margot ends up jumping through his bedroom window, sounds creepy, it's not, I promise, and tells Quentin that they are going on an adventure. So Quentin is like, what on earth is going on? But ends up going anyway, and they have this night of just complete craziness, and it is just fantastic. It is so funny. But the next day Margot then disappears, leaving some clues for Quentin. Now Quentin starts trying to piece these clues together along with his friends, and they end up going on a road trip to try and find Margot. It is just hilarious. It is so funny. Margot's such a brilliant character, and I just love John Green's writing. Again, it is brilliant. I think without John Green's writing it wouldn't be as good, but his writing is so good, and nobody could write contemporary YAs, I don't think, like John Green can. And the third book is my favourite out of John Green's books, and that is Looking for Alaska. So this is about a guy called Miles, and Miles has a pretty uneventful life. He doesn't really do much, but then he ends up going to a boarding school, and in this boarding school he meets a girl called Alaska. Now Alaska is a bit weird, a bit crazy, and he ends up becoming friends with her and is drawn into her crazy life. So then they kind of counteract each other, and the friendship's really weird, but it really works. I don't really want to say too much because it's kind of one of them ones you can't really say too much on, but it is brilliant. Definitely my favourite out of his books, and because this book's shiny, the lighting's gone a bit funny. But I really do recommend this. It is just fantastic. All of John Green's books I do really enjoy, however, these are my 3 favourites. So that is it for my book recommendations for the summer. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also leave any comments below and I will try my best to reply to them. By all means, leave any recommendations for the summer that you have in the comments as well, as I would love to know, and any recommendations are always brilliant. And I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye!